Hey guys, welcome back. So today, working on this Poulan Pro push mower. It is powered by a newer style Briggs & Stratton engine, and according to the EPA certification, this met the 2018 standard. So likely this machine is no more than 7 years old. Anyway, this was drained of its fluids and pushed to the curb to be taken away as trash. And I guess that begs the question, why would someone trash such a new machine? Everything seems to be here as far as the engine goes. I pulled it over before loading it into the car, and the engine rotates without issue. We definitely have compression, and the deck appears to be in good shape as well. But while lifting it in to the car, I couldn't help but notice this front wheel is just hanging on, by a thread. I was hoping that maybe the bracket was broken, but I think more likely the deck is blown out. This deck is actually a pretty thin gauge metal, so likely there's some rot, or maybe the prior owner just hit something and literally cracked the deck. So usually I want to hear the engine run before making a repair like this, but given that we already have no oil and no gas, I think I'm going to keep it dry because we are likely going to have to weld that up, and I don't want oil and fuel dripping while trying to do that. So let me set up a little bit better and get going on this. Going to leave this sign on for now until we have some oil in here. I don't like leaving small engines around without oil because you never know who's going to try to start it. So hopefully that'll remind someone not to start it. So this is actually the good wheel. Thought we'd start there and just see how it's supposed to be attached. And it just looks like a washer and a nut. And if we look on the top, a little bit harder to see because there's a ton of grass caked in. So we'll spend a second and clean that off. But from what it looks like, that is definitely blown out. So the grass that's in here holds water, and that's what rusts the deck out. So you can see there is a lot of grass caked in this corner. So yeah, and you can even tell it's a bit wet. So I would say likely this was rusted versus the mower actually hitting something. Don't even need to unbolt it. Well, I think you can see the issue here. This hole is supposed to be the diameter of this bolt. Instead it's the diameter of the entire washer. So what happened was the wheel pulled the washer through, taking the deck material with it. So like this wheel isn't going to attach. Anyway, there are a few ways to fix this. I think before I do that though, let's get this fully disassembled to make sure there's no other damage we're not seeing. And assuming this is good, then we can move on and fix the deck. And there's the missing piece of the deck. And it doesn't look rusted, so, there is surface rust, but that's not what caused the failure. I think it was just due to the extremely thin deck material, but, the adjuster seems to be fine. So, yeah, let's get that deck repaired, and I think we'll be in business here. I noticed when pulling the other wheel off, there was no washer. So I double-checked the parts diagram, and there's not supposed to be a washer on these wheels. So that is one way to repair the damage that we're seeing on the other side. And I'm thinking potentially this is damaged as well. So I'm going to clean the threads up a bit. We'll just remove this one and double-check if this side is damaged as well. Yeah, I think this one blew out as well because that's a pretty big hole and not the right size. So we actually have two broken wheels, and it looks like two repairs to make on this deck. So I'm going to leave this one here for now just for support while we repair the other side, and then we'll circle back over here. So this is the piece right here that broke off the deck. So I'm just going to use it to measure the thickness of the deck. And as you can see, not very thick, 0.03 inches. You know, likely that is an 18 gauge metal. So not a lot there. I'm going to use this mending plate to basically just cut out a piece and weld it onto the deck. This is 16 gauge. It's about twice as thick as the deck. So still pretty thin, but it should give it a lot more strength. You know, ideally I would use something thicker, but I think ultimately we're kind of limited based on the length of this axle bolt right here. We need to have enough for the nut to go on, but I also want to keep a washer on the backside to give it a little bit more strength. So I think the washer combined with the mending plate should give us the strength we need. So the metal, it's all kind of bent up when the wheel was pulled out. So I'm going to start just by flattening this. We'll make this surface nice and flush. And then I'm going to just sand off this paint. You know, the mending plate, technically we could attach it to either side. You know, the underside would be kind of less visible, but there is rust and pitting and just a lot of dirt here. So I'm thinking we will get a cleaner weld if we attach the plate right here, and then we can just use the washer on the backside. So the size here doesn't need to be exact, but I'm thinking a plate that's about 2 inches by 2 inches should fit in there pretty well. So I'm thinking the plate should go right about there. So we're going to have to sand a little bit more paint off on the top and bottom, and also drill for the mounting hardware. So let's do that now before welding this in place. That should be pretty good right there. So I'm just going to clamp it in place. You know, we do need to drill another hole, which helps the wheel adjuster lock in place. But, you know, I think for now we'll get this installed where it needs to be. Then we'll take some measurements and just drill the final hole. So for this, we're going to have to be really careful. I've got the welder set to the lowest setting, and my welder actually has no recommendations for this gauge metal, which tells me it's likely not recommended because you can blow through this in a hot second. So I'm just going to do a couple of tacks. You know, we'll give the metal a chance to cool down. We'll do that all the way around, and we'll call that good. Yeah, that's likely all we need to do, but I'm going to push my luck and just add a couple more. So I'm flexing the wheel pretty hard, and that mending plate isn't budging. The only flex we're getting is from the adjuster bracket itself. So I think between that plate and the washer I added on the underside, you know, this repair should hold up for quite some time. So, you know, we do need to paint this, but before we do that, you know, I want to make the same repair to this side. So I'm going to actually take a second and just get all this grass kind of off the deck and off the table, because the welding I just did, you know, could have easily ignited this stuff. So yeah, let's clean this mess up and then finish this side up. Alright, so I've got the mower flipped over on the other side. We'll just get this wheel out of the way. That also needs to be flattened and sanded, and then we can move forward. Well, aside from the paint, the deck theoretically is done. So I'm going to flip this over in a second. We'll add some oil and some fuel. We'll try to start it. But before I do that, while we have access to the blade, I'm going to double check it, make sure it's torqued at least to the minimum. And if the engine runs and sounds good, we should probably order up a new blade. It has quite a bit of wear. This is the cutting edge right here, and it's supposed to be straight. And you can see there's just a ton of wear. It's like that on both sides. So although this isn't an immediate danger, it's also not going to cut very well. And even if I sharpen it, it's not going to stay sharp for very long either. But for now, should be fine to test with as long as it's torqued to what it should be. And I didn't show it, but I did disconnect the spark plug. I had to rotate the blade just a bit. And although it's low risk that it could start, especially with an empty tank and the bale is not depressed, there should be no spark, there should be no fuel, but I don't know 100% if the carb is dry, and I'd rather not take the chance. So according to Google, this should take about 470 milliliters of oil, which is about half a quart. Yeah, it's perfect. We are right on the full line. So we have a filter. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't say great either. You know, I do see a little bit of debris in here, so I'm going to blow this out before trying to start it. All right, place your bets. Give it a couple squirts. See what we get. All right, let's see how many pulls this is going to take. See if it restarts. Beautiful. Not too bad. Started first pull. The engine sounds really good, and for once, I don't think I need to clean that carburetor. It's running the engine quite well. So I would say the engine is 100%. You know, the deck, now that it's repaired, is also 100%. So I think it's safe to order some tune-up items for this, you know, namely the blade and likely a new air filter. So while I'm waiting for those to arrive, I'm going to spend a minute and just clean up the engine and the top of the deck. We'll shine that up a bit, and then I want to remove the wheels again and get some paint on those mending plates to help protect them. It's been 24 hours and the paint, it is nice and dry. So I'm going to get the wheels reinstalled. The tune-up items, they've been ordered, but it'll be a few days before those show up. All right, we got a new blade and a new filter, so let's get those installed real quick, and then we'll try it out. That's what the edge is supposed to look like. And of course, if you're cutting in an area that has a lot of dirt and sand, it's just going to act as sandpaper and wear that edge away. So I will admit, I was not too impressed with this machine when I found out how thin gauge the deck was. It is destined to fail. If there ever was such a thing as a throwaway mower, I would say this is it. On the flip side though, this is so light. It's the lightest mower I've ever used. And of course, the lighter it is, the easier it is to use. So it is a trade-off, one that some people I think would welcome. Anyway, this thing was thrown away. It was definitely thrown away for good reason. And with the mending plates on there, we should get, I would say, another 7 to 10 years out of it with a little bit of care. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.